It's very special to us as Americans. It's a time for getting family and friends together, worship, presents, food. It's a time for kids to watch that magic happen with Christmas time. And it's a time for us old folks to watch the kids and remember what it was like for us to feel that magic of Christmas time. And I want to tell you about another kind of Christmas that we have. It's a Christmas that's been with us since the nation was formed and even before that. Christmas, 1777, Valley Forge, one of the coldest winters on record. The men were poorly provisioned. Some didn't have shoes. They had very little food. And Washington was up against the fence with many losses behind him at this point in time. Mary Chestnut was a Southern South Belle Ball. She was from a wealthy family. She was also a gifted writer. She wrote letters which have become recognized as a watermark in the chronicling of the Civil War. She was awarded the Pulitzer Prize 80 years after she died because of the compilation. And she's captured here something that travels through all of the stories about Christmas time, and that is the wife and mother with the two children praying to God as to where her husband might be and is he safe. And counterposing that is her husband, alone by a small fire, wondering how his family is getting along at Christmas time. Christmas 1914. The German troops were singing Christmas carols from their trenches across no man's land and were heard by the trenches of the British. A British corporal got out of the trenches, walked across the barbed wire into no man's land, and he was not shot. He in fact was caught and managed to meet a German. And that inspired others to get out of the trenches. And they met in the middle of no man's land, exchanged gifts, and had a soccer game. And then went back to the killing after that. Christmas, 1944, Bastogne, the Battle of the Bulge. It's sometimes referred to as the year without a Christmas. Fighting continued through till the first part of January 1944. 1950 is a special year for Christmas. It's called the Christmas Miracle. The Chosin Reservoir had fallen. The Allies were pulling back and had to be evacuated. There was no evacuation plan, but a Marine colonel and a Navy admiral put together a hasty plan to get 105,000 troops off the beaches and to safety. What they hadn't planned for was 100,000 North Koreans, refugees, trying to escape the Chinese onslaught. And they appear on the beaches with no way of getting them out. They hastily got some LSTs from World War II, got the people on board, even brought a victory ship. The victory ship's a cargo ship, provisioned for a crew of 20 people. They put 14,000 refugees on that victory ship and got them all out. Harry Truman called it the best Christmas present he ever received. And it continues. We've got Christmas in Afghanistan, we've got Christmas in Iraq. I'd like a show of hands. How many of you have been in uniform and experienced a Christmas away from home? Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I want to tell you about another kind of Christmas, another Christmas. This is the Christmas in 1972. And it's called the 11 Days of Christmas, not the 12 Days of Christmas, the 11 Days of Christmas. I was flying a F-105, that's the airplane on the lower side of the picture there, it's a fighter airplane, and we were escorting B-52 bombers. I'm going to tell you about one day in 11 days And we're fortunate enough today to have two of the pilots who flew the B-52. What I'm going to tell you is my view of the war from my position in the fighter airplanes. And when we get done, I'll introduce them to you. If you have questions, they may give you a perspective about flying the B-52 in the 11 days of Christmas. So it is the 26th of December, 1972. And I want to give you some background. The North Vietnamese were of the mindset that you can't stop us because we will take 10 casualties for every one casualty that you produce. And what they had learned from the French at Dien Bien Phu in 1954 was that we Westerners don't have a stomach for long involved wars, so we don't have a stomach for death tolls. And they knew, the North Vietnamese knew if they held out long enough, we would capitulate. So, how do you fight the war? Well, President Johnson went to the Joint Chiefs of Staff and said, okay, how do we do this? The Joint Chiefs of Staff said, well, it's going to take you somewhere between 700,000 and 1 million men in 7 years to fight the war. And Johnson said, I don't like that. Then Johnson said, I want to do a bombing campaign to keep the soldiers out of the field. And he went to the U.S. Air Force, and the U.S. Air Force said, okay, well, you've got to do it relentlessly. You've got to put a lot of force in there, just like World War II. And if you dilly-dally around and come and go, you'll lose. So Johnson said, okay, well, bombing campaign is going to be restricted and cautious. And as a result, instead of approaching it with a World War II mentality, we had 16 bombing pauses and 72 peace initiatives throughout the 9 years of the Vietnam War. And the North Vietnamese came back and told us the same thing that Ho Chi Minh told us in 1954, that that's okay, we'll outlast you, and know that the weight of publicity work against you in the war. How they played the game was very interesting. In 1968, the North Vietnamese came to the peace table in Paris. But they spent 10 weeks arguing about what the shape of the table should be. Should it be a square? Should it be a circle? Should it be a combination of two? 10 weeks. And they knew that the press would diligently report these ramblings, squabbling, meaningless chatter, and they did. And it made the Americans public even more opposed to a war that seemed to have no end to it, a morass. When Nixon took office, he had a secret plan to end the war, and he said that it was not going well. So he sent Henry Kissinger to talk to Linebacker II, the North Vietnamese minister, and they worked out a plan to end the war, a peace treaty. And Kissinger came out and was blared across the headlines of the New York Times here, peace is at hand. And he also added that we hope all our boys are home for Christmas. Well, that was all well and good, except they hadn't coordinated with the president of South Vietnam. And he was upset because what he had done, Kissinger had done, was pretty well sell out the South Vietnamese. And he threw a hissy fit. And the North Vietnamese took that as another opportunity to delay the talks. They walked out of the Paris Accords and everything was back up in the air. And the American public was once again exposed to a war that seemed to never end. Well, that was enough for Nixon. By the 16th of December, he authorized a strike into North Vietnam against Hanoi and Haiphong, the most heavily defended areas in the world at that time. And the B-52s have been taking part in the war since it began, but had never gone into these extremely high threat areas. So this was going to be maximum use of air power against the enemy. The rub of the grin for the Vietnam War was the introduction of the guided missile as a weapon. On the left-hand side, you see a surface-to-air missile called the SA-2, or the SAM. You hear the word SAM. It is guided by a radar that you see on the right side. It guides both the missile and tracks you as a target. It allows the missile to be guided, so no matter what you do with your airplane, it will compensate and track you down. This is a video, and go ahead and start your video. I'll go back and make sure you have. This is a picture that I call 5 seconds later. The airplane on the right side is an F-105. He's on fire and going down. The smoke cloud you see over there is where the SA-2 exploded. It explodes like a shotgun shell. If you're within 600 feet of that explosion, it'll go through your airplane and take you then, and that's what happened there. These things are deadly and a new aspect to war that we were not prepared for when we went to war in '64. Now, the mission that I had was a new mission that they dreamed up, and it was some way to counteract these surface-to-air missiles by actually targeting the missiles themselves. And this is a patch that we wore, and it's reflective of the first pilots who were briefed on what we were expected to do as what we call the Wild Weasel pilots. So you see Wild Weasel there, you see Willie the Weasel with his kind of eyes that are amazed at what he's been asked to do. And the task we were asked to do is that we want you, Wild Weasel, to go into the target area first. And we want you to run around, and we want you to make the SAM missiles be shot at you. And then you will avoid the missile. And then while you're doing that, while you're keeping them busy, we're going to let the bomber aircraft come in with their bombs, bomb the target, and then they're going to get out of there. And once everybody's out, you can try to get away without getting shot at you.
Yeah.
And the crew said, "You gotta be messing with me." Wild Weasel roll continues to this day, and that's the same patch that the F-16 Wild Weasels use today. That's the airplane. We use missiles. You can see them on there. They're guided against the radar sights. And we carried jammers to jam the radar so the radar would be blinded. It was a two-place aircraft. Pilot and electronic warfare officer, or EWO, or BEAR, in the back seat. You worked as a team. You were married together. You ate together. You worked together so that you had a symbiotic relationship. You could not spare the time to talk in the airplane. You had to know instinctively what each crew member wanted to do. And that's why we were paired up as a team for this mission. If we did our mission right, the missiles would take out the radar sight, as you can see here. I want to give you some perspective of what the war was from an aerial tactics point of view. Most of us have heard of the 1,000-plane raid of World War II. 1,000 bomber airplanes going into the target. So let me give you some correlation here. If you look at a mission from London to Berlin, that's about 492 nautical miles. That's about almost 500 miles. If you look at the missions that we flew, I flew from Korat up to Hanoi, and that's 424 miles. The B-52s out of Utapao down here in Thailand flew up here, and it was 570 miles. But the B-52s that came out of Guam Air Force Base had over almost 2,300-mile trip one way. So you can get a feel for what that's like compared to a 1,000 airplane raid of World War II. This is the B-52, 108 Mark 82 bombs, 500-pound bombs, can be unloaded from this thing. And this is how the airplane was used in the war up until the time of the December bombings. It was used in a tactical sense, in other words, to try to find trucks and things on the ground. If you look at the picture, this roadway is the Ho Chi Minh Trail. If you look real close, you'll find it looks like measles. Little dots all over the place. Those are bomb craters trying to hit that roadway. And if you look real close, they're completely fill that picture all the way up and out of the top of the picture and the sides. Bomb craters trying to use a bomber that's a strategic bomber to try to take out trucks. It doesn't work. Here's the other comparison with World War II. One B-52 is equal to 12 B-17 bombers in terms of bomb tonnage. 1 to 12 ratio. So, it would only take 83 B-52s to make a 1,000-plane raid of World War II. Same tonnage, 83. Okay, the game plan. The B-52s always moved in cells of 3 airplanes, as you see here. They were 1 mile apart from each other, staggered, and staggered vertically in altitude by 500 feet. That's called a cell. All B-52s were always formed into a cell of 3 airplanes. The reason you do that is because the only way they had to defend themselves against those surface-to-air missiles was jam the radar, blind the radar. Each aircraft carried their powerful jamming devices. The jamming signal looked like a balloon or a circle coming out around the airplane. But there are 3 airplanes there together, so the second airplane also puts out its radiation. It increases the coverage around the bombers, and the third one comes out with an overlapping pattern of jamming. So now they're enveloped in a very dense jamming pattern. It's very difficult for the radars to see. Here's where it broke down. You're seeing a cell of 3 airplanes, but when the airplanes approached the target, Strategic Air Command said you had to do a post-target turn, which means you immediately had to drop your bombs and turn 90 degrees from your flight direction. If you look at the first airplane, he's already completed his turn, a 90-degree turn. He's headed this way. Number 2 has just dropped his bomb. He's barely started his turn. And number 3 is still trucking in towards the target area. Now picture those 3 bubbles of energy that I showed you before. Where are they at? They aren't overlapping anymore. And that's exactly where they got hit. Just trying to make it a post-target turn. Why did they do a post-target turn? Well, in nuclear war, the fastest way to turn your tail to the blast from a nuclear bomb is to turn 90 degrees. Except nobody told them, I guess, that they weren't in a nuclear war, they're in a conventional war. But SAC did their nuclear war tactics, and it was very dangerous. The other thing that was dangerous, they opened the bomb bay doors 1 minute before the bombs dropped, and that made them a huge radar target, even with the jamming bubble around. Okay, so here are the first 4 nights of the 11 days of Christmas. The airplanes were developed or built into 3 cells of 3. But they took the total force, and let's say it's 99 B-52s. 99 B-52s, they break it into 3 parts, 33, 33, 33. And then they went on this track that you see right here. And each one of these airplanes would follow this track, make this turn, and make this turn, and fly out at an altitude. So they would take the first 33 airplanes in cells of 3, that's 11 airplanes, total 11 cells. And 11 cells would come across the target on that flight path. That's 1/3 of the 99. And then they'd wait 4 hours. And after 4 hours, they'd send the second third of 99 airplanes, of 33 airplanes, across the target and use the same track, the same altitude, the same turn points. And then they'd wait 4 hours. And they take the last third, they run through the same track, the same altitude, out. Well, you don't have to be a genius to figure out what's going on here. You're repeating the same tactic over and over again. The Vietnamese figured out real quick and said, well, just wait. They'll come around, they'll be right here in about 10 minutes, shoot. And they did that for 4 nights in a row. We saw the tactics the first time before the first mission, and we called it ducks in a shooting gallery because that's what it was about. It was going to be like. In fact, it was disastrous, as I'll show you in a minute. This is the 26th of December. They had learned their lesson by this point and decided to change their tactics drastically. This is 126 airplanes took off, 123 made it to the target area. What you're looking at here are tracks. Each one of these names is 3 airplanes. This is aqua cell, hazel cell, bronze cell, violet cell. And each one of these tracks is at a different heading. You see they're coming in from all different directions, and they're different altitudes. Now the thing about this is, remember I told you that what they were doing before was 1/3 across, wait 4 hours, 1/3 across, wait 4 hours, the last third goes across. 8 hours to get all the airplanes across. This night, 123 airplanes went across the target in 15 minutes. It simply overwhelmed the enemy defenses. They had no way of countering it. And it was terribly devastating. And it was the turning point in the air war. Robert, try that again, see if it's going out. Make sure that pull the hands up. Make sure the hands move around. No, with the trim pad, make sure there's a little hand on the screen.
You don't have.
Everything I showed you was in the daytime, but all these missions were flown at night, and there was very little you could see of the missiles, except when they went off, they went up into the clouds like you saw there, and the rest of the time you only could see a glow that was coming in your direction. That's a B-52 going down in flames. That's Ebony 02, and I think every pilot in the air has paused for a few seconds to watch this. It was a terrifying sight to see the airplane going down. That's the stills of Ebony 02. It took a bomb right into Bombay. Took a hit, sand hit right into Bombay. Surprisingly, 4 of the crew got out of the airplane. 2 died. This is something that you won't see very often, and I carried a tape recorder in my airplane that night. And so what you're going to hear is the actual transmissions of 15 minutes compressed into 2.5 minutes. What I did is took my tape and called out only the transmissions you could understand, hear words in. For those of you who haven't listened to a radio transmission, they're hard to follow. Even if you have listened to a radio transmission, it's still hard to follow. So what I've done is I put a running scroll here and I point it out to you. It's the actual words that are being said. You can correlate it to it. But what I want you to do as you listen to this is think about those SAM missiles coming up. One little ball of light, multiple balls of light. He'll cause up to 6 SAMs coming up at once. And none of the things you're going to hear, you may hear the words repeated, they are not looped. They're separate calls. So listen to how many SAM calls in a word aimed at those B-52 bombers. Let's see if we can get this to run. Okay, this is the 11 days of Christmas right down here, the 18th through the 29th of December. There are 3 lines. I want to call your attention to this one. This is the number of aircraft on that mission. So 123 that first night, and the subsequent nights down to this point where the aircraft were withdrawn from the immediate target area because of the losses they were experiencing. And then Christmas Day, we took off, and then back up to the 26th of December. So this is the 26th, and then back down for the last 3 days. I think the important thing here is this is 83 sorties. The blue dotted line is 83 sorties. So whenever one of those diamonds is above the 83 line, it's bigger than a World War II 2000 plane bomb range. So that you can see 3 times, here, here, and here, they're actually larger than the largest raids of World War II in terms of bomb tonnage. The number of B-52s, we lost 15 B-52s in those 11 days. Those are shown in the yellow bars here and red over here. So it's 3, 6, 2, and so forth. The red is just the percentage of losses. Strategic Air Command said we can sustain a 3% loss rate. So whenever the red bar is above the red dashed line, we're losing more aircraft than they even expected to lose. And you can see that those first 4 nights, it got their attention. They were losing airplanes up on 8.5%. Okay, so lessons learned. Omaha, Nebraska was controlling the B-52s with precision only SAC could have. They were making very detailed calls of what the airplanes were to do, when they were to do it, how much they were to carry, what targets they would strike. They tried to control the tactical mission or military mission from 12,000 miles away. The SAC was stuck in this kind of nuclear war thing. I told you about the post-target turn and how deleterious that was to the mission. That's nuclear tactics. They were very rigid, by the checklist, by the book, no thinking out of the box. They really didn't like the Vietnam War because they were strategic and they never wanted to lose their strategic mission, so they never gave it enough thought to even have a plan for how to fight a conventional war with the B-52s. General Sullivan at Utah got his crews together after the first night and the losses you saw and said, what are we going to do to make this thing happen right? The crews got together, they came up with a battle plan. General Sullivan took the battle plan directly to the Chief of Staff of Strategic Air Command, and he was subsequently never going to make any rank because he went around the chain of command to give the word that his crews and he as a commander said the work had to be done. He was excoriated for that by the staff at Omaha. The night of the 26th, they used his tactics. Surprisingly, there was very little combat experience in the headquarters staff, and there was a lot of fighter pilots in the headquarters staff who didn't understand the bomber role. And so we had leadership that was not aware of what needed to be done. And my highest compliments are to the B-52 drivers because uncommon valor was a common trait from these men. And hopefully you'll speak to it in a few minutes and you'll understand that what they were up against with those SAMs was unbelievable from both a historical point of view, but firsthand, it was a terrible, terrible time for them. Bottom line is, air power, if used unwisely, is counterproductive. Dropping bombs in the middle of the jungle, trying to take out a road is unproductive. They used, in their strategic sense, of wiping out strategic targets, they are very productive. They brought the Vietnamese to the table and forced the peace to be concluded. So, with that, I'd like to introduce 2 of the people who were B-52 pilots. Major, I'll use their rank at the time. Major Craig Meisner is with us, and he flew the mission on the 26th of December. John Buell, who you see in the lower right-hand corner, was shot down on the 4th day of the mission, so it was a POW. John? I'll open up for questions, and you can ask any one of 3 of us questions.
How long was he at POW?
3.5 months.
How long?
Question was, how long were you at POW?
3.5 months. I was one of the fortunate ones. Short timer. Anyone else?
You had 4 lieutenant colonels of your aircraft.
Leonard and Navigator, who was the aircraft commander, they were the last two out of the airplane. Everyone got out. There were, as Paul said, there were 15 B-52s that were shot down during Linebacker II. 10 of those were shot down right in the Hanoi area. And I was one of the 10. And you're right, on my crew, there were 3 lieutenant colonels. There was a brand new gunner and a brand new navigator, and their co-pilot didn't have much more time. So we had 3 old guys and 3 young guys on the crew. Now, of the 10 B-52s that were shot down in the immediate Hanoi area, there were 6 people on a B-52, so that's 60 crew members. We had 1 airborne commander, 61. 31 of us survived. That's a 50% loss rate. It's only through the grace of God that I was in the 50% that I was in. Could have been in the other half just as easily. So, and the other thing that's kind of interesting about this, mine was, to the best of my knowledge, mine was the only aircraft that was struck with 2 surface-to-air missiles. The others were hit with 1. And ironically, my crew was the only one that every one of my crew survived and came home. We were all captured, we were all POWs from that came home. So, kind of interesting.
Good.
I'm sorry.
Can I ask you what altitude you were flying in at that time?
About 35,000 feet.
Okay. When you first started out flying, was that in the 40,000?
I never flew at 40,000, Craig.
Yeah.
You at 45, ever at 40,000?
First flight was when we flew South Vietnam, and it was in 31,000.
31, yeah, 35.
Okay. What was the elevation of the SAM? How effective was the SAM?
Well, I know one thing, it was damn effective at 35,000 feet. But I don't know what the ceiling is. You, Paul?
Yeah, the estimates of how many of those SAMs were actually fired in those 11 days ranges widely, depending on who you talk to, but somewhere between 700 and 1,000 were fired. And so only 15 airplanes were shot down. So there were a lot more fired than hit, but they were deadly nonetheless.
You know, another thing, Paul, you were talking about the 26th. I've got an interesting personal story. I was in solitary confinement when that was going on. And a little interesting story about what was going through my mind as that was happening, because that was the big day. And some beefed, Craig, was that you that put that string of bombs in about 2 blocks from the Hanoi Hill? Some B-52 laid a string in real close to the hill. And short story, in the cell, they had wooden shutters over the bars, and when that string was let go that close to the Hilton, I was back in the corner of my cell with my fingers in my ears because the noise was just deafening, and those wooden shutters were banging back and forth like they were made out of cardboard. Plaster was coming down from the ceiling. And I'm thinking, you know what? 4 days ago, I was the bomber. Yeah, and I thought, now I'm the bombee. And this is not a good way to check out. I'm going to buy a farm by my buddies up there that I was flying with 4 days ago. But the 26th, one of the reasons I think that was such a big night was, would we bomb anybody on Christmas Day? Oh, heavens no. So, yeah, we needed to get some maintenance done on some of those buffs, but the North Vietnamese were restocking their SAMs too. So, for those 2 reasons, we could get a lot of aircraft up on the 26th, and they had a lot of SAMs to shoot too, so that was the thing there. Anything else? Craig?
Do we know who it was that finally had the courage to tell SAC to change their tactics?
I have a question. Where is that voice from? Go, Tom. Say again.
Do we know historically who it was at SAC headquarters or at Air Staff headquarters that finally told SAC during the linebacker to change their damn stupid tactics?
Yeah, that's Sullivan.
He made the input from Utapau.
Right.
But who finally got their head properly located in Omaha.
General Sullivan told SAC headquarters, if you don't give me what I want, I'm not going to launch the sorties. And that's what caused this Passover. But I want to add a little bit, Paul, to your speech. You talk about the post-hard return. Most B-52s are shot down post-hard return. Now, prior to the change in tactics, we had to start our hydraulic backs up about 3 minutes prior to target, open the bomb bay doors at 2 minutes to go. Now, you got the big bomb bay doors up there, and then the post-hard return with 45-degree mag, and what that caused is ECM transmitting antennas were now horizontal, not even vertical, and so you lost the PW clearance. That's when most airplanes got hit, because we lost all your capability of hiding. And so we got that changed, so when I flew my mission on the 26th, we did a dirt, we flew about 2 minutes past the target, then a 30-degree bank. 30-degree banking out. Now, I had an airplane, MD-2, right in front of me was shot down, and there was only 4 people going off, so 2 of them were in with the aircraft. The radar navigator led it on out of the Lockheed career. He ended up at Lockheed. He retired to full colonel, and retired about 4 years ago from Lockheed, so we got to talk to each other out there, and I have all that on my tape. The other thing I want to talk about is Linebacker I started, I believe, 9 April 1972. And this is where we started our compression sortie, started going north, started EW, started cartooning these signals, and getting our training going into the high threat area. And when we did a Sam uplink on it, we had to break and get out of there. On the Thanksgiving, we lost our first B-52, or Strausley. He got shot, well, he got hit, and he was able to get the airplane back to Thailand before he bailed out. And he ended up getting a Silver Star for saving his crew. And also, his wingman got damaged. So I did 113 missions total in Linebacker I, Linebacker II. And I finished up over there, and I got recalled back to Carswell after 654 days in the combat zone. And I ran the RTU out here at Carswell to get people how to fly B-52D. And I retired with over 9,200 hours in the B-52. So. Yeah.
All right, weren't you the high-time B-52 pilot at one time?
SAC put out a thing, I was in the SAC Guinness Book of Records, but here recently I read where 2 lieutenant colonels at Barksdale now exceeded 11,000 hours in the B-52s. I started flying the B-52 B-model, now it's the H model. I flew B-47s prior to that. I'm 84 years old. So life has been good. And it's great to have 2 retirements. Getting this together. Paul and I only met each other about a week and a half ago. I provided these slides for him up here. And you can see where John Newell's over there. You can see John, can you see John Newell there in the courtyard at Hanoi Hilton? That's the day before he was released. And that's my crew up there. Now, since I lost my gunner, he died about a year ago. But the rest of the crew have all done fine and they're all retired. So life has been good. And we enjoy roll call. And thank the people that do roll call for having us here.
Thank you very much. We'll wrap it up here. And
Hey, one more question for this man right here.
I don't want to keep people tied up. Okay, Mary, can you get this one? By the way, what changed the minds of the SAC people was the Vietnamese. If you want to look at those missions, there were 123 airplanes to start, 116 airplanes, and then there was that string of what only amounted to 30 airplanes. That was SAC pulling back and not putting up the max effort because they did not know what to do. They knew they were in trouble. They didn't know what to do. That's when General Sullivan's plan was put on the table and accepted.
Okay, one last question, comment, because otherwise we're going to run out of time. We have a couple things still to do. Here you go.
I'm Colonel Mulbaker. I was the president camp 5.5 years. I want to see buff pilots all over this room stand up. And if you take a good look at me, if you're in the car, I'm good by all the great spirit.
Did everybody catch what he said so that we're all buzzing, yes? No? Okay, do you want to do it again without all the buzzing?
I just say, Colonel Mulbaker, 5.5 years in Hanoi Hilton, and I'd still be there if it wasn't for the bus pilots. So take a good look at me. You see me in the bar, your drinks are on me.
Darn, I was hoping that I get a drink too.
All right, Paul, we have something here for you. You can actually thank Judy back there. She picked that up. But anyhow, I give the Air Force a hard time, but y'all did a great job.